Hi folks, the Filipino P here. And it turns out that a lot of people who watch my videos have never actually been to the Philippines, not even for a vacation. So today I'd like to do something for you folks. You probably have all kind of questions and worries, and even though you watch my channel to learn about the culture and check out the pretty Filipinas, actually coming here in person might still seem like a big old question mark. Some of you have never traveled internationally, and the thought of jumping on a plane and traveling halfway around the world might cause a fair amount of anxiety. What things do you need to bring? Where should you stay? How will you get around? Is it safe? You can watch 1,000 videos and pick up little bits of info here and there, but wouldn't it be nice if someone organized everything in one place, like a practical checklist of do's and don'ts? Well, here you go. Okay, so you're sitting at home right now, watching other people's adventures in the Philippines and wondering, just how real is this? Could it be the right place for me? Sure, it looks good. Cheaper cost of living, traditional women, sunny beaches, but where's the catch? There's gotta be a catch. Well, if you've been following my channel, you know I've always dedicated myself to telling you the whole story, the good and the bad. But there's only so much you can learn without actually coming here in person. The problem is, once you start considering the nuts and bolts, everything becomes a lot more intimidating. Can I afford it? How can I get the time off work? Who's gonna take care of my dog? Then all the other doubts start creeping in. Concerns about paperwork and passports and flight times and hotel accommodations. Not to mention the biggest question of all, what am I gonna do when I get there? After just a few minutes of asking yourself all the things you don't have answers for, you might just sink back into your easy chair and continue watching someone else live his dream life. You say to yourself, maybe someday, but unless you give it a shot, someday never comes. And that's what this video is all about. Answering those pesky questions so you feel comfortable pulling the trigger on your great adventure. So, where to begin? Well, assuming you have the time for a vacation, the biggest question is going to be whether you can afford it. The Philippines is a relatively cheap place to live, but getting here can cost you a pretty penny. Sometimes. Now, I'm not going to get into the cost of plane fare because it changes daily and depends on where you're coming from. But I will say that if you keep your eye out for special promotions, you can find some great deals. I talked to several people who showed me the cost of their flights, and a few of them actually got round-trip tickets from the US for under $1,000. One person even sent me this, an offer for $500 both ways. Yes, there are often conditions attached, but if your travel dates are flexible, you won't need to exhaust your entire budget just getting here. But how much are you gonna need once you arrive? Well, apart from airfare and accommodations, which can vary dramatically depending on what's acceptable to you, I do have suggestions as to how much to bring. Just like the cost of living here permanently, everyone has different advice, but I'd suggest that you bring about 500 US dollars for every week you plan to stay, for stuff like dining out, transportation inside the country, and for buying all the little things you forgot to bring. So for a 1-month trip, you want to bring about 2,000 in cash as a healthy backup plan. Now, you're probably not going to actually spend that much, but you want to bring enough cash reserves in the unlikely event that you can't get a hold of your money from back home. The good news is that you'll be able to use ATMs here, which take almost all major credit cards, but just be sure to contact your bank before you leave and let them know you're coming to the Philippines so they don't block your card when they see something that looks to them like a suspicious transaction from a foreign country. Some banks will even reimburse you for all your ATM fees, so just check with them before you depart. But if your card keeps getting declined for some reason, or if you can't find a working ATM, which actually can be a problem here, you can use your cash reserve to save the day. Many businesses here don't accept credit cards anyway, so you always want to have a good supply of pesos on hand. And no, you can't use foreign currency like dollars. Now, the money exchangers are everywhere inside the airport and at every single mall. But here's a word to the wise. Only bring fresh bills that have no visible folds or tears or writing on them. I don't exactly know why, but they won't accept bills that have even the slightest imperfections. So when you go to your bank back home, request that they only give you brand new $100 bills to take to the Philippines. And by the way, you can only bring a maximum of 10,000 in cash into the country. But I wouldn't do that anyway unless I was planning to stay. Whenever you exchange your cash, always try to get the smallest denomination of pesos possible. And whenever you're paying for a purchase, always try to use the largest denomination possible. And here's why. There always seems to be a shortage of small bills here, and unlike in the West, a lot of smaller stores won't be able to make change. If you step out of a taxi and try to pay your 100 peso fare with a 1,000 peso note, you might get a disapproving stare instead of your change. That puts you in a bad position, and you might end up having to give the driver a disgustingly large tip. So whenever possible, hold on to the little bills and spend the big ones first. For those of you that aren't familiar with our currency, here are the 6 denominations and their corresponding colors. Orange for 20, red for 50, purple for 100 peso bill, green for 200 peso bill, yellow for 500, and the largest denomination is a 1,000 peso note, which is blue. Now there's a really easy way to figure out the rough exchange rate, and you don't need a calculator or any complicated formula. Basically, all you do is double the face value of the bill to find the amount in dollars. 50 pesos is 100 cents, or $1. 100 pesos is 200 cents, or $2. Simple, right? But we're getting way ahead of ourselves because you're still sitting on your couch back home. So let's go back to the basics. All right, so you've decided you can afford to visit the Philippines, but what about all the nasty paperwork and documentation? Well, if you're coming from a Western country, it's probably going to be really easy because all you need is your passport and a plane ticket that shows you're leaving again within the 30 days. You don't need to apply for a visa because they'll give you one automatically when you arrive. The immigration officer will stamp your passport and you'll be allowed to stay here up to a month. And if you plan to stay here longer than a month, don't buy an expensive return ticket. Just buy a cheap ticket to anywhere outside the Philippines, like for instance, to Malaysia, and then just throw it away and keep extending your tourist visa for up to 3 years. The only other thing you'll need is to fill out an e-travel form. It's like a health questionnaire, and it can be done for free online. And even if you forget to fill it out, you can even do it once you get here. And no, you don't need to be vaccinated in order to enter. Now here's a very important pro tip. Make a photocopy of your passport showing the bio page and also a copy of the barcode on the back. Store the copies in a different place from your passport because if it ever gets lost or stolen, having those copies is the easiest way to get a new one. Okay, so now you're ready to book your flight. But what city should you fly into? Well, this is just my opinion, but I do everything humanly possible not to land in Manila. Even the Manila Times says that the airport there is one of the worst in the world, with long lines, constant checking of boarding passes and IDs, a confusing and inefficient layout, almost no good places to eat, and the fact that items frequently disappear from passengers' luggage. If you fly into Manila, prepare for an entire day of your vacation to be wiped out and replaced with one of the most frustrating experiences you've ever had. So, what's the alternative? Well, there's a few different places that service international flights, but the airport in Cebu is my favorite because, as it turns out, Cebu is also one of the great places to start your adventure. But we'll get back to that in a few minutes. No matter where you fly into or whatever airline you choose, I have another little piece of advice. In case you didn't know, Filipinos can be loud. And not only that, but we often don't try very hard to keep our kids quiet. If you have the misfortune to be seated within 10 rows of a screaming Filipino child, don't expect to get any sleep for the next 15 hours. Now I know they give you a cheap little pair of foam bullets to shove in your ear canals, But you're heading to the Philippines, the acoustic version of a war zone. And almost no matter where you end up staying, a quality pair of earplugs might be the best money you ever spent. So if you want to catch some Z's on the flight or in your hotel room, I strongly recommend that you invest in a pair. Now you might be wondering what else you need to bring, and the first thing that comes to mind is your clothes. You know the Philippines is hot, but what about the dress code? Well, there is no dress code, so you can pack really light. All you're gonna need is shorts and t-shirts or tank tops if you've got any. Whatever's the least amount of fabric is what you want to bring, and almost no matter where you go, you won't be underdressed. It's a good idea to pack a pair of slacks and a few button-up shirts in case you want to go to a nice restaurant or to a casino. But if your goal is to check out the real Philippines, then less is more. Do bring your medications though, as well as any brand name stuff you typically use, because we might not have it here. Searching for a specific item in the store can be a real pain in the ass. But if you go looking for Preparation H, you probably won't find it here. So when in doubt, bring it with you. The sun here is twice as brutal as Florida's sunshine, so I'd also pack a healthy supply of sunscreen. It's quite expensive here, and you're gonna wanna use a lot of it because you won't know how badly you're burned until you swell up like a big red balloon and lose a couple of days of vacation because it's too painful to even get dressed. Don't say I didn't warn you. Now, as far as finding accommodations, websites like Agoda and Airbnb are just fine, and you'll find a wide range of options to suit your budget. But the main thing is, stick to a large city like Cebu to start off, and don't go wandering around the countryside until you get an idea of how things work here. In the city, you'll be able to find everything you need, including decent restaurants that serve food your stomach can handle. But even if you're tempted to eat like the locals, I would not suggest trying any street food, unless you feel like playing gastrointestinal Russian roulette. Street food can be really oily, and sometimes it's not cooked properly to kill all the bacteria. I can't even count how many stories I've heard from visitors who have ended up hogging a toilet for more than a few days. The same goes for drinking the water. Don't do it. I know it can be hard to remember, but don't even rinse your mouth out with tap water after brushing your teeth. Keep a bottle of filtered water by the sink to remind you, or you're gonna be right back on the toilet again. Speaking of bathroom business, you always want to carry an emergency supply of toilet paper wherever you go, because you're probably not gonna find any in the public facilities. If you didn't take my advice about the street food or drinking the water, you might really need my advice about the tissue. Now, one of the first things you want to get after food and toilet paper is a SIM card for your phone, so you have the ability to communicate. If you already set up a virtual phone service, or if your regular provider has a plan that allows international roaming, then you won't need it. But most people end up getting a SIM card with a Philippines number. They're cheap, easy to find, and you can get them at any airport or mall. The folks at the store will even help you register and install it within just a few minutes. And as you already know, most Filipinos speak English, so you'll have no issues communicating with us either. A lot of you ask about learning our language before you arrive. You know it's not necessary, but you want to show respect and that you're willing to learn ours since we learned yours. That's a nice sentiment. But if you're just coming for a month, the only two phrases you'll need are Salamat means thank you, and walang anuman, you're welcome. If you try to learn much more than that, we probably won't understand what you're saying. And even though we'll appreciate the fact that you tried, it's actually easier for us if you just stick with the English language. While you're still at the mall, you also want to pick up a voltage adapter if you didn't bring one with you. The Philippines uses 220 volts, the same as Europe, but the US uses 110. So to avoid frying your gadgets, an adapter's a small price to pay. Okay, so now you've got everything you need to start your vacation, and you'll find that getting around is pretty easy, especially in the city. There's taxis and buses and planes and ferries to take you just about anywhere you want to go. You can even rent a car and drive yourself, since you can use your foreign driver's license for up to 3 months. But I wouldn't. You've probably seen videos of the traffic here, and there's just no way I'd want to drive in this mess when I first got here, so leave it to the pros. But the one thing we haven't dealt with yet is what you want to do once you're here. Now that part's obviously up to you, but let me suggest something not to do. A lot of people make the mistake of trying to schedule too much. They want to swim with the whale sharks on Monday, visit the island of Sikihor on Tuesday, and go surfing in Siargao on Wednesday. Their itinerary is completely unrealistic because the Philippines just doesn't work like that. You'll spend an entire day getting from one island to another, with all kinds of unexpected delays and setbacks. I recommend allowing at least 2 or 3 days per destination, because half of that's gonna be spent just getting there. Slow down and relax, and let the current take you where it will. It's perfectly okay to come to the Philippines without any plan at all, and decide what you feel like doing after you get here. If you came here to meet someone, that's great. They'll probably have suggestions on where to go and what to do. But even if you don't know a single soul, I guarantee you'll do just fine on your own and make new friends wherever you go. So the next move is yours. You can either sink back into that easy chair and keep watching my videos, which is fine with me. Or you can take a serious look at coming over here to visit, a trip that might actually change your life. Now, I'm sure you veterans out there will have a million other pieces of advice, so I appreciate your posting it in the comment section. Let's get these folks all the information they need to give the Philippines a try. Well, that's it for today, and I'll be back on Tuesday with something you won't expect. Till then, folks. If you think about it, I'm like Bond, James Bond, delivering classified intelligence for your eyes only. With a license to kill misinformation and bad advice, it's my mission to get you the truth about the Philippines. All I ask for my secret service is that you give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, and visit my Patreon page for extra content and exclusive features. And while you're waiting for your next debriefing, check out some of my other videos too. Well, that left me shaken, but not stirred.